Have you ever been tortured? How are abusers and rapists treated inside? Do prisoners have a law among themselves? In the new episode of Can't Ask, we are with Mech Chival, a former prisoner. Welcome. Can you briefly
Hello.
tell us about yourself?
I'm a veterinary health officer. I was born in Kayseri, Develi in 1960. After my military service, well, the September 12th coup affected me too, to be honest. It was a big coup. Because of that coup, I was imprisoned for 33 years, 9 months, 17 days, and 11 hours for a crime I didn't commit. And during this period, my right to live was taken away. I could not live.
Why did you go to prison?
I was in military intelligence. I was a researcher at JITEM. I was a scapegoat because of the research that was done. There is no need to blame this on the state or anyone else. I know that for 33 years I was in prison for a crime I didn't commit. None of us are innocent. Of course, I may have committed minor offenses unknowingly. It is easy to break hearts, hard to win them. But justice broke my heart. Justice could not win me anymore. I don't believe in justice anymore. I was sentenced to 1 year and 8 months. That 1 year and 8 months never ended.
How did 1 year and 8 months turn into 33 years?
I wish I knew the answer. I have no idea who altered the file, but if you look it up in the Court of Cassation records now, it says 1 year and 8 months. But in the documents I have, it shows that that file was removed by the court. It is overturned by the court, and an immediate release is ordered. It says, if it's not for another offense, the execution should be revoked. Let me ask you this. You may not necessarily know the answer. Perhaps due to your age or limited legal background, you may not be able to fully understand it. But let me ask you this. Can you execute a sentence twice?
You can't.
Of course not. In capital punishment, you execute a person once. Can you exhume and execute them a second time? Can you do that? You can't. You can't execute someone twice. My sentence was revoked 3 times. And how can a sentence of 1 year and 8 months become 11 years? Then it gets revoked again. Why did I serve 22 years? I want an explanation for this. I'm looking for answers. I can't find any. Didn't I have the right to sit in the park and drink tea with my beloved? Didn't I have the right to have children? Didn't I have the right to settle down? Why did justice take that away from me?
Were you married before you went to jail? Were you with someone?
I was engaged. There was someone I loved very much, but it didn't work out. After I was sentenced, I think 1 year after I was sentenced, she married someone else. She has 5 children now. I bumped into her once. I didn't know her husband, I only recognized her. I turned to look and her husband said to me, "Oh, isn't this the guy from 140 journos?" They came over to greet me. I asked a few questions, we chatted. It was unbearable, I couldn't stand it. I said, "I'm sorry, I'm busy." I said, "I'll see you guys later sometime." I walked away. She turned around and walked away crying. But life is not about breaking homes. I told you, we came here to live.
Have you ever thought about suicide?
Yes, I have. I thought about suicide twice in prison. Once I took pills. I didn't die. I woke up 2 days later. Once I cut myself. When my mother passed away. Because my mother was sacred to me. I loved my mom and dad very much. And it was a painful loss. It wasn't supposed to happen. I would give my life for my mother. I'd still die for my mother without a second thought.
Were you able to attend her funeral?
No, I wasn't. I couldn't attend the funerals of my brother or the others, none of them.
Is this a right normally given to prisoners?
That was granted later. It didn't exist then.
It didn't exist at that time.
At that time, not much had advanced yet. Time was limited. There was no gendarmerie. There were obstacles in certain things. The Minister of Justice doesn't run the prison anyway. The prison is run by the warden.
So it's what the warden says.
Exactly.
You stayed in different prisons, right?
Of course, E-type, L-type, C-type, F-type, A-type, special type. I served time in all of them. I've been in all the prisons of the old types. There used to be worms in the food served in prisons. They used to give us stewed fruit, and there would be white worms on top, but some people ate it out of necessity. We used to cook ourselves. We were cooking and eating together. I am a very good cook. I'm a professional cook. I was cooking myself, we were eating. That's how we lived.
Were you ever tortured?
Yes, I was. Who can be in prison and not be tortured? I spent 33 years in prisons and 45 days in the police station. They kept me in the police station for 45 days. They kept me there when they had no right to do so. For 45 days at the police station, they didn't offer tea and coffee. They offered beatings.
What was the first thing you did when you got out?
I was released from Sanakale. I went to the seaside with my belongings. There were birds. I washed my face in the sea and cried. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to be arrested again. People said, "Hey, what are you doing?" "The sea is cold," they said. Young university students were sitting on the benches. Some holding hands, some chatting. It was quite lively. I said, for the first time in my life, I have my freedom. I'm enjoying my freedom. To me, the symbol of freedom is the dove, the butterfly, and the sea.
How can you find a job after you get out of prison? Can you talk about the difficulties you had?
You touched on a very good subject, but finding a job is like looking for a needle in a haystack. If you have connections, you go to employment agencies, and they say they give loans to ex-convicts. They say they give loans to ex-convicts. How can you give loans? They supposedly give loans to ex-convicts. Don't fool people, just tell the truth. I'm going to start a business. I'll rent a shop and furnish it. I will prepare the job site. I will apply to the employment agency. Then they will come and examine it. They will give me a loan.
You can do that yourself.
With that logic, what's the need for a loan when you've already done that? I will run the shop. So we have limited opportunities to find a job. I'm looking for one. I also posted on Facebook saying I'm looking for a job. I had no choice. I'm looking for a job, but I can't find one no matter where I go. I went to Kayseri, Izmir, Istanbul, Ankara. I applied to employment agencies. I applied to the employment agency in Bursa. They gave me 4 documents. I do everything they tell me to do. The man tells me if only you had come yesterday. We hired someone. Actually, he thinks I'm old. He won't hire me.
So what do you want to do?
Me? I'd like to sell books. I'd like to open a bookstore or a kebab shop. A tea shop. If I could open and run it. But a security guard, maybe. You know what I mean? Being a security guard is already tiring after this age. It's hard. They called me for a job. They said, "Here, we'll give you a job." They saw me on YouTube, so I went. A truck full of cement. I took the bags of cement. I took 10 of them. How can I unload the car with 2 people? There are no other men. We started to unload the car. I carried 10 of them. Then I couldn't stomach it. After 10, I said, "Sorry, I'm going to take a rest. Have a cigarette." I said, "Keep your money. I'm sorry. This is not a job. This isn't work. If you carry a bag of cement and drop it, you get docked. And when it explodes too," I said, "No. I can't do it. I'm sorry."
How did your relatives and family treat you after you were released from prison?
After I was released from prison, let me tell you this thing I experienced. I met with someone who was 5 years old when I left. He looked at me. He said, "What are you doing here?"
He didn't recognize
He didn't recognize me. "Aren't you ashamed of your age?" he said. "What are you doing in our garden?" It was my late brother's kid. The one who said that. My nephew. I bowed my head. I said, "I am sorry to bother you," and I turned my back and left. My sister-in-law saw me from the window. She said, "That's your uncle." He came running after me. He kissed my hand and said he was sorry. I said, "You're right. I spent 33 years away from you in prison. What's the point of being an uncle to you now? What's the point of life? What's the point of living?" But when I said that, tears were in my eyes. My heart and soul was crying. Every part of me was in pain. I could feel the pain in every strand of my hair, down to the tips of my nails. I'm about to cry again right now. I said, "You are right. Life goes on. I'm sorry to bother you." I said, "I'm sorry," and I left. And we said goodbye. I had to leave. That word hit me really hard. I couldn't handle it.
How was your typical day in prison?
In prisons, you get up early in the morning. You go out for the head count, whether you're in pajamas or not. Some are dressed, some are in their pajamas, some have just woken up from sleep. We go out to the garden. There is a big garden. The administration team comes for head count. Chief guards, wardens, the shift guard, the guard on duty. Now they're called correctional officers. The guard comes. They do the count. Sometimes the warden joins in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 40, 42. They say that's it. They pull the door shut. Then the monotonous life inside begins. Breakfast rush. If there is a visit, the rush for a visit. A flurry of letters. Whatever I have planned to do at that moment. Sometimes they take you on a trip. Once a week you go to the gym. You do sports. But of course, only if the weather conditions allow for it. You go for a walk, to the field. Every day they take one ward to the field. At different times. You come, another ward goes. They are scheduled for the week. Seminars are scheduled. There are regular seminars in prisons. There are libraries. You go to their libraries, you get books. You read your books. This is how life goes on. With longing, with yearning. But some of us, people like me, sit and make beatings. We make handcrafted ships, weave intricate patterns. I know all the handicrafts made in prison.
You also write poetry.
Yes, I write poetry.
Is that how you spent most of your time in the cell?
Yes, it was spent writing a book. I was in Kayseri prison when a famous person, I won't reveal his name, a movie actor, passed away. He was also in Kayseri prison. There he suggested me to write a book. He was already writing. I remember him with fondness, what can I say? So I started writing books. I started writing poetry because I loved life, I loved living. If I remained idle, I would unjustly bear a grudge against the state.
Did you ever stay in solitary confinement in prison?
I spent 17 years in solitary confinement, all by myself. And in the meantime, I wrote books, I wrote poems. I did beadwork, handicrafts, I made ships. I made intricate beadwork, crafted women's shoes from beads, made belts, prayer beads, and charms. In other words, I was busy with handicrafts in prison, did whatever I could do. If it wasn't for these occupations and sports, I wouldn't have been able to live in prison.
Is there no communication with other people while you are in solitary confinement?
No, there isn't. There are some cells in prisons that cannot be described. They can only be experienced. Only bread is given under the door. You see the hand of the person who gives you the bread. You can't see anything else. You see the person who gives you food. You can't see anything else. They have 1 hour of outdoor time. 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week you go out in the air. You walk in the garden. When you walk around, when you go out, you see some people. If you know someone, you can't say hello. You cannot speak out loud. He nods, says hello. He goes to his ward. Or to the garden.
And people with similar offenses are kept together?
We were in the same ward. There were people with all kinds of criminal tendencies, from the envelope man to the suitcase man. The suitcase man steals suitcases without you even realizing it. There were such people who were almost crime machines. The purpose of their conversations with each other was to educate each other. But if the crimes are different, what can the murderer teach the usurper? What can the usurper teach the murderer? He cannot teach anything. But when you put the muggers next to the muggers, they constantly teach each other new things. So they have more to teach each other. This shows the ministry's failure in rehabilitation. Once someone has been in for over 5 years, it's nearly impossible to reform them. There are crime machines. There are those who killed 90 people. There are monsters. I served time with them. There was someone that murdered 6 people. I heard that, in Manisa, someone killed his father with nails. There was a woman in Silivka, 40 years old, 60. She killed maybe 40 children and ate their livers to get younger. How will these people adapt to society, integrate into society? I say, may God spare everyone from such a fate. May God never let anyone end up there, but may God keep that place with us for some crimes. If there is to be an amnesty, these crimes should never be affected by amnesties and laws.
Which crimes are these for you, for which there should never be an amnesty?
Cases of rape of minors, femicide, spouse murders. Can you imagine? We share the same bed. We have children. They should act by thinking about their life partner, their wife. We're not going to live based on assumptions. We will live based on facts. They need to find a solution or get a divorce. Why are you taking your own life? Why are you taking someone else's right to live? You have no right to kill. If you want to live, if you love to live, you'll let someone else live. You shall love to let someone else live. If you don't love letting people live, you don't know how to live. You are not human. Do you know what I mean? They are acting on their feelings, saying that she was having an affair with this or that person. She was talking to him. My wife is walking around town. She goes out on the balcony. What do you care? Talk to her. Can't you say a word?
What was one of the most interesting, the most memorable things you encountered in prison?
We wanted to discuss amnesty. So the amnesty issue started. It was approved by the parliament. Our president was Demirel at that time. Demirel was going to sign it. It was signed. It was going to come into effect. The draft was withdrawn when 33 soldiers died in the morning. Everyone had taken out their beds, scattered their belongings, broken plates and glasses. We had prepared everything. We had packed our belongings. When it was withdrawn, we lost hope. You can't give people false hope. If you give a person hope, you shall fulfill that hope. Prisoners hold on to life with hope.
Have you ever come across people who took their own lives in prison?
A lot. A lot. Which one should I talk about? How can I talk about all of those who died? There have been people who tried to kill themselves by taking drugs. Most of the people who commit suicide are in prison for the murder of their relatives. They can't bear the consequences. They can't stand it.
What is the attitude towards molesters and rapists inside?
Nobody likes them. They are in a separate ward. They call it the ward of grooms. They call it the ward of perverts. They are in a separate ward. They can't go anywhere. Even when they go to the directorate, they go under control. They can't go freely. They can't walk around. Their doors are locked. Their food is separate. Everything is separate. They are not like other convicts in prison. It is separate.
How is the hierarchy and relations between prisoners? I mean, we see and hear terms like ward master and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Now, ward systems are like this in prisons. There are managers, execution prosecutors, guards, execution personnel, execution management, administrative officers. There are execution rooms related to execution and punishment. There is a health unit, and then there are ward supervisors within the ward. There are assistants to the ward supervisors, and there are also tea servers. The tea server constantly serves tea. In some prisons, the person who cooks and looks after the ward is called a waterman. In some prisons he is called a square man. That person also cleans the ward for a certain fee and washes the dishes. He distributes the food. We come, we eat, we leave.
How do they choose the ward masters, etc.?
They are chosen by the people in the community.
The people in the ward?
Yes, the people in the ward choose them. The ones chosen by the administration are not liked by anyone in the ward, because it's usually one of their own men. Whatever happens in the ward, he reports to the administration. That's why they don't like them. But the people they choose the honest ones, the ones who have served a long time in the past. Experienced people are chosen, good people are chosen. He is the ward manager. He resolves small problems and fights in the ward and helps with these kind of issues. If there is something that he cannot handle, he rings the bell and hands it over to the administration and sends them out of the ward.
Do prisoners have a law among themselves?
Of course they do. It is a very good subject. The law within the prisoners themselves, the law of the administration, is heavier than the law given by the state. There is respect. First and foremost, there is respect. What happens in the ward should stay in the ward. You know what I mean?
Snitching.
That's what they call snitching. That's snitching. Nobody likes snitches. Those rules are well-established rules. There are rules such as, you will go out at this time, you will go to bed at this time, you will walk around at this time, you will eat at this time, this locker is yours, that one is yours. Some of the rules we have in our lives are that you don't pass by when someone is pacing, you drink your tea at tea time, you don't ask for it to be brewed otherwise. For the good of our community, made up of the people there are rules set by the ward administrator. That is similar to the prison directorate, not the Ministry of Justice. It is similar to the prison directorate. Apart from the bylaws of the prison and apart from the regulations, there is also the regulation between the wards themselves, and that depends on the nature, character, and personality of the ward supervisor.
What happens to those who break these rules?
They are destroyed. They will either be thrown out of the ward or beaten. In other words, they leave. Those who violate the rules of a certain prison are punished. They will be thrown out. He gets beaten. His head swells up. He says he fell. So he can't say the truth. He has acquaintances in the prison he goes to. When he goes there, the news is already there. Potatoes are thrown over the walls in the gardens. In other words, we communicate with potatoes and onions in prisons. We send news to each other.
What does it mean to throw potatoes and onions, for example?
We cut the potato slightly with a knife. We put paper on it. We send news that this friend is coming from here. That's why people try not to make mistakes. Prisoners do not go beyond the regulations. In general, riots in all prisons start with the children's ward or the women's ward. Potatoes are thrown. Preparations are made. Everyone votes. Those who want to participate send news. The riots start. Plates start getting hit. Windows are broken. Beds are burned.
How many riots have you witnessed?
10-15 in total, and I think 7 of these riots resulted in deaths. All the other riots resulted in minor suppressions. They were suppressed by the administration or the military. It is the military that provides security in prisons. There were 7 suppressed by the military. There have been a few suppressed by the administration.
Are there riots because of bad conditions?
Yes, of course. I've done it myself on my own. I rioted in the canteen. I locked the door. I piled up the beds, the cupboards. They gave me a ward all by myself. In that ward, I attacked the prosecutor, the manager. I electrified the cupboards, the door handles. I didn't let anyone in. I said, "Why am I serving time for no crime?" They offered me a deal. I made a deal right away. They put me in the shuttle and sent me to another prison.
How many prisons did you change?
I swear I don't know how many. Manisa, Adıyaman, Muş, Bingöl, Bitlis, Elbistan, Adana, Old Type, F-Type, New Type, Bursa, Silifke, Osmaniye, Niğde, Nevşehir, Kırşehir, Eskişehir, Diyarbakır, Erzurum, Elazığ, They take you around different prisons in different parts of the country. You go to every prison. They refer you. The Ministry of Justice leads you, so you comply. You have no choice but to comply with whatever verdict they make. You can't prevent this at all. You don't draw lots. I never wrote a referral on my own will. I couldn't go on my own will. I was always sent by the administration because of hunger strikes.
You went on hunger strike more than once.
I have gone on hunger strikes more than 27 times. And it wasn't for just 1 or 2 days. I went on hunger strikes for 3 months. I only ate lemons and smoked cigarettes. I couldn't give up cigarettes. Lemon and sugar water, the administration gave me these anyway. Sugar water, lemon, buttermilk, cigarettes, and nothing else.
Are all prisoners equal in prison? Is there a distinction between rich prisoners and poor prisoners?
This is a subject that relates to our daily life and how we live our daily life. In England, there are lords. There are upper-class people and lower-class people. In Turkey, too, there is a distinction between rich and poor everywhere. In prison, too, there is a division between rich and poor. There are rich wards and poor wards. The rich wards are given all kinds of phones, all kinds of needs. Some things are tolerated. The lives of people in the rich wards are so different from the lives of poor people in prison. You cannot even imagine the difference. I can even say this without any hesitation. They can even bring things from outside to the rich prisoner. All kinds of opportunities. Can I tell you about it? In detail. He can even stay in the room with his wife. He can even bring another friend to stay with him in the ward if he wants to.
But that's only their rights.
If you ask me how I know, someone came to me with a request. They told me to knit bras and panties out of beads. So I knitted them and they made me knit a belly dancer dress. I said, "What is this for?" He told me all about it and said all kinds of things are brought from outside for the rich.
So what do you think about the death penalty after what you have seen and experienced in prison?
Death penalty is inhuman. Can you imagine? You are taking a human being's life. It is murder. Death penalty is murder. Killing a person, executing a person, death penalty is murder. To kill an innocent person, that is even worse. It is the worst. I saw a person being executed. I was in the execution yard in the observation block. The cells in the observation block face the execution yard. I saw it with my own eyes. And in the morning I had my trial. On my way to court I saw a woman. She was crying. I said, "Who is this woman?" She was crying. I asked the guard outside the prison and he said her husband was executed.
Do you think keeping a person in a closed and isolated place helps rehabilitate them?
Now, let me tell you, that's a very good question. In order for a person to do this, it is necessary for the administration, the state, to reintegrate them into society. It's important to help people become part of society again. It is necessary to make him find his personality. It is necessary to make him find his essence, his humanity. You cannot leave him to his own devices. Let me tell you this simply. We are shepherds. We have 20 sheep in front of us. We leave them. One goes to pasture, one goes somewhere else, one goes somewhere else. But if we herd them together in a balanced way, we will be able to graze them in their own place and feed them without harming anyone's crops or grass. It is similar to that. You cannot leave people to their own devices. You know what I mean? You will lead them according to their personalities in prison. People are not the same. There are various kinds of crimes. If we want to adapt people, if we want to reintegrate people into society, psychologists, specialists, and psychiatrists in prison have a great duty. They need to communicate with people, to bring people to themselves. You cannot leave them to their own devices when their sentence is over. If they are reintegrated into society, if improvements are made, if they are surrounded, if they are secured, if they are given a job, a place to live in society, They will be reintegrated into life.
When you were released after spending 33 years in prison, what surprised you the most about people, about society?
People's attitudes and behaviors. After 33 years in prison, in order for a person to adapt to society, he has to get rid of the feeling that people are looking at him. You constantly wonder if people are looking at you, if you are alienated or discriminated against in society. Do I make myself understood? Am I loved? Will I be loved? Will I have friends? So there are these feelings. But when people look at me, they look at me strangely. Let me tell you about this. I was going to Ankara. Someone was sitting next to me, a man. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "To Ankara." I said, "Why are you going?" He said he was going to the ministry. He said, "Why are you going?" I said, "I served a long time in prison. I was just released." I've just been released. I did 33 years for no crime. The man got up from beside me and went to the back seat. I look back and forth. I turn around and look from my seat. There is a gap. There are people here. There are people there. I turn around and look at him. He turns around and looks at me. He immediately backs away. He looks at me and backs away. This attitude of the society has deeply wounded me. When he got up from there, it felt like an insult to me. It felt like a swear word. I was going to grab that man by the collar and say, "What have I done to you? What harm have you suffered? Do you know me?" No. Then why are you behaving like this? It's not good for people to look down on people because they have been released from prison. It's not good to discriminate against people. There's no point in marginalizing, alienating, and exposing such beautiful people and our beautiful brothers and sisters who came out of prison.
Are there people who go to prison because they want to have a place to sleep and to eat?
Of course, there are those who commit seasonal crimes and are eager to go to prison. That is, homeless people who usually stay outside in the cold in winter can commit minor crimes such as breaking windows. They know the punishment to be given better than the judge and the prosecutor. They commit crimes accordingly. They serve 6 months. They get out in the summer. We call them seasonal crimes. There are many people like that. You shouldn't discriminate against a homeless person. You shouldn't discriminate against a person because they have been on the street. I say this many times. I always say it. I always say it whenever I have the opportunity. But these people cannot find a job in society. They have nowhere to sleep. They have nowhere to stay. They are hungry. What will they do? The best place, the best haven is the prison. He will commit a crime. He will serve 6 months. He will eat well, take a bath, take a shower, and get out. In the summer, he can sleep on the street, anywhere, bathe in the sea.
Have you ever been homeless after being released from prison?
Of course, I've been homeless a lot. I just rented a new apartment. I stayed and I slept in construction sites, I'm not going to lie. Well, it wouldn't be right to hide something that I know, that God knows, and people know. I don't like lying. I slept on the streets. I stayed in hotels in Ankara and Bursa, but I worked. I sold rosaries. But the days I couldn't earn my hotel money, I was staying on the streets. I stayed in garages.
Did you ever try to escape from prison?
Many of my friends managed to escape. They escaped, but they came back because being on the run outside is worse than life inside. I am aware of that. And because I am aware of this, I didn't even think about it. Let's say today I escaped. I see a guard. I say, "Are they coming for me?"
Scared?
In fear. I don't like living in fear. I saw a rose plucked from its branch. I saw bushes binding it to its chest. I've seen thousands of madmen wandering outside. I've seen rare madmen inside. They are after the effortless prey. I have seen rotten fruits with ripe ones underneath. Your house would collapse with a shake. I have seen rare carpets inside, hungry lips cracked and skin turned yellow. Dead or alive, I don't know. I have seen people without any emotion. While you lived in palaces and inns, I died in cell corners living for freedom.